Hello everyone, welcome to our Group 1 presentation. Today we will introduce about defining data visualization. And then this is our table of contents. We totally divide it into 5 parts, and then you will know what we talk about. Part 1 is about what is data visualization. Firstly, we will talk about the definition of data. The writer used one sentence to summarize of it. The representation and presentation of data to facilitate understanding. I have already highlighted some keywords. It's about representation, presentation, data, and understanding. And then I will introduce about these keywords. What is data? Data is textual and numerical in format. Data is names, amounts, groups, dates, comments, location, and so on. And then we will roughly introduce about the representation, presentation, and understanding. How about the first is the presentation? It concerns the choice which are made about the form where your data will be visualized portrayed. And then its presentation, it concerns all the advisable design decisions that make up the overall visualization anatomy. And then its understanding. It's about your idea. It's intent to express what? What is representation? We can simply summarize it. It's about visualization data shown by marks and attributes. So what is marks? It's points, lines, and areas. How about attributes? It's the appearance of these marks, such as size, color, and position. And then what is a presentation? It can simply divide it into 4 points. It's about applications of interactivity, features of annotation, color usage, the composition of your work. For example, the selection of a chart type intrinsically leads to decision about the space and place it will occupy. An interactive control may be included to review an annotated caption. For any design property to be even visible to the eye, it must be possess a color that it's different from that its background. What is understanding? 3 stages of understanding can be perceiving, interpreting, comprehending. So we can see the perceiving. The first stage is perceiving. It can be definite in what does it show. This concerns that the act can be simply being able to read the chart, what the chart is trying to show me through data, largest, middle size, or smallest values, what proportion of the total does that value hold, how does this values compare in ranking terms, to which other values does this have a connecting relationship. So can you find any relationship in this chart? It's perceiving. Now we will use an example to show about perceiving. Identify the big, small, medium values. We identify different color representing different meaning, but hard to identify the quantity to those properties. We are supposed to give apparatus which help us to estimate the quantities, conduct some relative comparison, large scale of comparison, small scale of comparison. Small scale is about left and right. Large scale is about in the periods of years, what is the change? And then it's interpreting. What does it mean? It is the process of converting them into perceived values. Is it good, big, better, or small? What does it mean to get down or get up? Is that relationship meaningful or significant? In the decline of the category, especially surprising, this all we can think about when we do these parts. Look about this example. Games and points for Toronto Rangers. If you do not have enough knowledge, maybe you do not have interest to want to analyze it, and you don't know how to analyze and interpret the data. So how well the viewers to interpret the data depends on the viewers' knowledge. If the viewers do not have sufficient knowledge and interest in it, they may not spend much time with any in-depth attempt at interpretation. So change another means that if you're really interested in about the entertaining data analysis, maybe you will put a lot of time on it, but if you do not have any interest about it, you will not. And the third stage is about comprehending. What does it mean to me? It involves reasoning the consequence of the perceiving and interpreting stages to arrive at the personal reflection of what all this means to them and viewers. Why is it relevant? Why one student does it? So it is really a simple demonstration to further illustrate the process of understanding. We can see more. Has this experience impacted me in an emotional way or left me feeling somewhat indifferent as a consequence? Does the context of what understanding I have acquired lead me to take action, such as make a decision or fundamentally change my behavior? Or do I simply have an extra grain of knowledge, the consequence of which may not materialize until much later? So we can use an example to talk about it. What this scenario tries to explain is that, from your perspective of the visualizer, this final stage of understanding is something you will have relatively little control over, because viewers are people, and the people are complex. We can simply summarize it as about you cannot force a viewer to be interested in your work, to understand the meaning of the subject, or get that person to react exactly how you would wish. Look at this chart. It's about Messi chart. If you have enough interest in about the football players, maybe you will take more interest in this chart. You will want to know what is the dip in 2030 and 2040, and there is this a temporary blip, or whether the bounce back in 2014 and 2050 was it a blip. This all kinds of information you will want to know, and you will try to learn more. This is the process to about the comprehending.
Next, one of the contents of the second part is about the importance of conviction. Often the design choices you need to make are clear. The preparatory nature of the first three stages is of great help in ensuring clarity in the later stages of the design phase. However, for more sober situations, you need to rely on the guiding value of good design principles. The key guidance that now most helps to shape and support the author's beliefs comes from ideas outside the boundaries of visual design in Dieter Rams' work. Rams is a German industrial and product designer who has the most famous connection with the Braun Company. He conceived the 10 principles that express what he believes is the most important feature of good design. The content are as follows. 3 of these 10 principles are not entirely suitable as general principles for data visualization in the author's opinion. Data visualization doesn't need to be always innovative, but it is not always and only about innovation. In most cases, the solution being created requires a tried and tested method used by generations, but sometimes innovation is needed to overcome simplistic challenges. Then, about long testing, it is very context-specific, not a universal goal of data visualization. For example, how many historical links you visited online only to find that a project expired due to lack of continuous support. For example, bare graphics are an old principle in this field, always useful, always used, always there when you need it. Next, the specific judgment of the project's environmental impact related issues actually depends on the relevant subjects and the stakeholders. If your work is to be printed, the use of ink and paper is not convincing to environmental protection. To develop an interactive system requires more energy supply. Surprised by these principles and considering their applicability to data visualization design, the author has transformed them into 3-level principles. Next, we will describe the concept of these 3 principles one by one. The principle 1 is that good data visualization is trustworthy. This principle is because it is related to the basic integrity, accuracy, and the legitimacy of any data visualization you graduate. There is an important difference between trust and truth. Truth is an obligation. In data visualization, there is rare a single view of truth. Instead of taking the inevitability of these prejudices as obstacles, it is better to focus on ensuring that the road you chose is trustworthy. Let's consider a pair of examples to illustrate this concept of credibility. Both descriptions are true. The color in the picture on the left is low-key. The color is rich but soft, but it conveys a certain graduality. However, the color on the right it's like it uses a tick of sweet color to attract my attention. The author doesn't like the house key image in the background, but it is relatively harmless. In addition, in the second picture, the font size and the text color don't feel like they are more applied. The chat on the left exactly shows all its operations, and overall, at least more trust is gained from the author. As you can see, the graphic uses an inverted vertical y-axis, and the red area decreases as the number of days increases. However, some commentators consider the inversion of the y-axis to be deceptive and declared that the graphic was not credible because they perceived the value replaced by the apparently rising white mountain. They mistakenly observed that 1999 and 2005 were the highest points. The key here is that there is no misleading intention. Creatively speaking, the effect of dribbling below is an understandable and seductive metaphor. In the picture on the previous page, the data may be too smooth to convey the same dribbling effect achieved. Trustworthiness is a pursuit and it should guide all your decisions, not just design decisions. As you will see in the next chapter, the visual design workflow involves a process with many decision-making connections, many paths on which you can seek different legal choices. Obviously, design is the most obvious result of your decision-making process, but you need to create and prove the integrity of your choices throughout the workflow process.
Then let's talk about principle 2 is good data visualization is accessible. This principle is second of the three principles of good visualization designs, helps to inform judgment about how best to facilitate your views through the process of understand. There has 6 items about when you frame your project content. The first item is subject matter appeal. This is the future you can. Then, this principle is second of the three principles of good visualization designs, helps to inform judgment about how best to facilitate your views through the process of understand. The three principles of good design is good design makes a product useful, good design makes a product understandable, and good design is unobtrusive. There has 6 items about when you frame your project content. The first item is subject matter appeal. This is fundamental function rights at the beginning of the consumption experience. This means how to choose the subject matters is immediately better. The second item is dynamic of need. This is need to know people do with this work, or is it totally voluntary? They can know they have a direct money in having access to this information. The fourth item is subject matter knowledge. It is blending extending knowledge with the capacity to acquire knowledge. Concern the distinction between complicated, complex, and simple. This means seem to have more about the semantic of language, but it is important of it in data. The fourth item is time. Use different chart types to suit different people. The fifth item is a familiar representation. This is the capability that go into being the most run creator of visualization work and the technical inflow in being the most effective consumer. If a viewer is overwhelmed or simple unwilling to make the effort to learn how to read a difficult chart text, then you have little control in overcome this. The sixth item is communication. This is generally a technical distinction. A subject may be difficult to understand because it inflects pre-extending and appropriate high level knowledge and needs to be internalized in this detail. Also, the communication had difficult interrelated phrases, always enforcing and simple for the purpose. The future you can influence. The first item is your solution is useful. It failed to focus on relevant content. It is not deep enough. You may have provided view of the data when the audience wants future angle. Also, a complex subject was oversimplified and it is not fit for the setting. Second item is your solution is obtrusive. It is functionally inaccessible and its format is misjudged. The solution creates too many complex, so it could not be easy to read. Also, it has too many functions. It could not add too many functions when the audience had no desire to put in a lot of effects the display. Third item is your solution is not understandable. It was complex subject analyzed and use a complex chart tag. Let the audience how to able of understanding this special choice of chart. Also, it was absent anally. It cannot have a short detail. Let's move to principle 3 is good data visualization is elegant. Elegant design is about seeking to achieve a visual quality that will attract your audience and support that mood throughout the experience, far after just the beginning moment. That had third principle for good reason. You can use 3 items to achieve elegant design. First is emulated the arbitrary and creative endeavor or communication activity. So editing is possess the most infrared skill and attitude. This is a second example. It can further the novelty or fun need to support. Not desires from the core arms of facilitate, understand, net by data and your audience. It is not ideal. Use KitKat style fingers of chocolate of each bar and a flow rooms background. It's often an elegant and appealing presentation. Not about minimalism. The elegant design achieve a certain invented.
Let's move to talk about the distinction. Isolated circle category.